Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are looking at a shift that honestly sounds like it belongs straight in a sci-fi thriller, but it's quietly happening right now in the real world. Anthropic, which you probably know is one of the world's absolute leading AI labs, just published a massive update on its own technology. And we aren't just looking at some cute new chatbot feature today. No, we are exploring the reality that AI is rapidly evolving to the point where it is literally building itself. I want you to listen to this quote, and remember, this isn't from a movie script, this is Anthropic's own stark admission from a recent detailed blog post. They stated, AI may be entering the early stage of self-improvement, part of the machine that builds better AI. What they're telling us here is absolutely crucial. Systems like their own model, Claude, are no longer just tools that we use. The machine itself is becoming the engineer. And that brings us to a really critical technical concept that you need to know, which is recursive self-improvements. Basically, this happens when an AI system can design, build, test, and improve the next generation of AI systems entirely on its own. The scary or maybe amazing part here is the compounding loop it creates. The better it gets at building AI, well, the faster the next AI is built. Now, Anthropic notes we aren't at full recursive self-improvement just yet, but the trend is moving surprisingly fast. Part 1, AI is now building AI. Let's look at the actual numbers they just published because they will drop your jaw. The internal engineering metrics from Anthropic are just fascinating. As of May 2026, more than 80% of the code merged into their own codebase was written by Claude. Let that sink in. Before the Claude Code Research Preview launched a year prior, that number was in the low single digits. So the vast majority of the code running inside a leading AI company is now being written by an AI. It's not just basic autocomplete anymore. We're talking about writing entire files and debugging highly complex systems. And because of this, the acceleration in output is wild. Human engineers are now merging 8 times as much code per day as they were in 2024. Why? Because Claude is basically doing all the heavy lifting and typing. The humans are essentially just managing the AI's output. In fact, one employee reported that they hadn't actually written their own code in 5 months. They've essentially just been promoted to Claude's middle manager. But what's really fascinating here is the leap in the actual quality of that automated work. Anthropic tracks how often engineers have to step in and correct Claude. On the most difficult, vague, open-ended tasks, Claude now has a 76% success rate. Just 6 months earlier, that was only 26%. That's a 50 percentage point jump in half a year. For tasks where you basically point the AI at a problem and just say, hey, figure it out. Let's ground these massive numbers with a real-world anecdote from the source material. When a routine upgrade caused tens of thousands of live training jobs to crash, an engineer pointed Claude at the incident. Claude tested the environments, isolated a single obscure flag, reproduced the crash, and confirmed a fix. Normally, that exact debugging process would take a human engineer 2 to 3 full days of work. Claude finished it in about 2 hours. The blinding speed of execution here is staggering. But there is a profound kind of isolating social shift happening alongside all this automation. An Anthropic employee noted that their workplace used to run on what they called a lost gift economy of small favors. You'd ask a colleague for help with a script, and that built mutual awareness and human connection. Claude, obviously, is infinitely faster and creates zero social debt. But every time an employee turns to Claude instead of a coworker, it's a lost opportunity for human collaboration. The whole fabric of the workplace is fundamentally changing. Part 2. Outpacing human research. You see, the shift goes way beyond just writing code. It's bleeding into actual cognitive problem solving. Anthropic ran an experiment on a critical safety problem called weak-to-strong supervision, which is essentially figuring out how weaker humans can supervise highly advanced future AI. 2 human researchers spent 7 days on this and recovered a 23% performance gap. Then, Anthropic unleashed a fleet of 9 parallel Claude agents. They worked for 800 cumulative hours at a total compute cost of just $18,000. Their result? They recovered 97% of the gap, designing every single experiment themselves. The human researchers were completely eclipsed. And we can see this autonomy accelerating in independent data too. Look at this timeline from a research organization called METR. They measure how long an AI agent can reliably work on a complex task completely on its own. In March 2024, it was just 4 minutes. By March 2025, an hour and a half. By March 2026, 12 hours. And the latest Mythos preview? It can work for over 16 hours straight, which is actually the maximum limit of what researchers can currently even measure. The time it takes for AI capability to double is shrinking rapidly. This brings us to a pretty sobering reality relayed by Anthropic CFO Krishna Rolfe. He said, humans are shifting from execution to oversight. Everyone becomes a manager. And this is happening across all departments. The finance team uses Claude to prep 95% of their monthly reviews, turning hours into minutes. But employees report a really strange side effect. When the automated systems inevitably break down, they realize they have absolutely no idea what the system has been doing. They occasionally feel entirely obsolete.
Part 3, the pause dilemma.
So, it's the most natural question to ask, right? If the people building these systems are genuinely concerned about the pace at which AI is building itself, why not just unplug it for a while? Why not just stop? Well, the answer lies in the brutal game theory of the global AI arms race. Anthropic points out that a unilateral pause, where just one company decides to slow down, achieves absolutely nothing. It merely shifts who the frontrunner is and allows less cautious actors to take the lead. The only real solution is a coordinated pause, where multiple global labs agree to stop together. But, and it's a huge but, that requires an airtight global verification system to ensure nobody is secretly building in the dark. Right now, we simply lack the decades of diplomatic groundwork needed to build that kind of global trust. They feel they can't afford to stop, unless everybody stops. Part 4. 3 possible futures. Let's slow down for a second and really think about where we go from here. Anthropic's blog post lays out 3 projected trajectories for our future. First, progress could stall due to chip or energy bottlenecks. But look, even a stalled future is massive. Anthropic's recent Mythos preview alone found 10,000 critical software vulnerabilities globally in just weeks. The second scenario is human-led acceleration, where a small team of 100 can do the work of 10,000. That is very likely where we are right now. The third is full recursive self-improvement, where AI systems design their own successors and humans risk losing control of the technology entirely. The gap between human execution and AI execution is closing fast. Claude is writing the code, reviewing the work, and running the experiments faster and cheaper than we ever could. Which leaves us with a profound, lingering question to consider. Are humans still controlling the AI race, or are we now just supervising it? Think about that for a while. Keep questioning and keep learning. I'll see you next time.